Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I have some more coverage for you guys with this ongoing banking crisis. I've done some prior videos about Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, etc. So there's some stuff I wanted to cover here, though, that I just thought was interesting. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up, starting with this. This article came out March 9. JPMorgan must hand over CEO Jamie Dimon's records in Jeffrey Epstein lawsuit. A U.S. judge on Thursday ordered JPMorgan Chase to hand over more documents concerning CEO Jamie Dimon to the U.S. Virgin Islands for the territory's lawsuit accusing the bank of aiding in Epstein's ST ring. So I thought that was just strange timing as all of this is happening. Hey, like there's this too. And if you guys recall, we're still waiting on, there's supposed to be documents coming out from the Jeffrey Epstein litigation, the Ghislaine Maxwell case. There's supposed to be some kind of documents that are going to come out that are going to name names. As far as I know, those haven't been released yet, but this is interesting. So a judge in Manhattan said the bank must turn over requested documents from 2015 to 2019, a period after JP Morgan had dropped Mr. E as a client. So they are seeking damages from JP Morgan, the Virgin Islands, for allegedly aiding in the ring and keeping him on as a client, missing red flags about his misconduct, etc. He had been a client from 2000 to 2013. Now, there's also potentially a class action lawsuit against JP Morgan from some of the victims. So, yeah, they said he is a likely source of relevant and unique information about why JP Morgan kept Mr. E on, discussions of his referrals of prominent and wealthy potential clients. So they have scheduled a conference for that case, which is tomorrow. Okay, so anyways, I just thought the timing of that was interesting. Moving on. We have this article from the next day, March 10. Silicon Valley Bank tanked, dragging down 500 Israeli startups. SVB Financial Group, aka Silicon Valley Bank, on Thursday was desperately reassuring its venture capital clients their money was safe, and its stock dropped 60% and more than 80 billion in value. Okay, so blah 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 blah. They're saying, hey, look, there's a lot of these startup companies that are gonna face problems from this. And here's another interesting thing. According to Business Portal, several Israeli high-tech companies that wanted to protest the Israeli government's judicial reform legislation took their money out of the banks the past month and moved it to Silicon Valley Bank, which was a mistake. And now those people are kind of being punished, right, by what happened. So that's just an interesting aside. I'm not saying that there's some kind of maybe something untoward going on there, just, noticing. So keep this in mind too. Silicon Valley Bank had a China venture, which they are trying to assure everybody we're fine. We're separate from the American operations. That is called First Sino-American Bank. That's the joint venture that China had with Silicon Valley Financial Group. So they had a 50-50 joint venture between Chinese state-owned Shanghai Pudong Development Bank and Silicon Valley Bank that was, recently shut down. So this is interesting. And keep in mind this, because we're going to come back to this later. Just keep in mind that there's a China venture going on with this. Now, we had the next day from AP News, Israel to weigh action after Silicon Valley Bank collapsed because they have so many different companies that are in trouble for this. Bibi Netanyahu said Sunday the government would assess the effect of Silicon Valley Bank's collapse on Israeli companies and determine whether or not to assist them. So now he gets to choose if he's going to assist the people that wanted to protest him in his new judicial reforms. So that is such a gangster move, just saying. And by the way, these people knew in advance this was going to happen. He knew. Bibi knew. He is a gangster. Yeah, so here we go. This is an article from Information Liberation. And by the way, guys, the links to everything will be in the video description. Israeli firms transferred $1 billion out of Silicon Valley Bank to Israel before seizure by feds. Yellen let them do this. Yellen the felon. We got to get that going. Israeli firms managed to transfer $1 billion out of Silicon Valley Bank to accounts in Israel just before the bank was seized by the feds. The Times of Israel reports. So Times of Israel says Israel's two largest banks, Bank Leumi and Bank Hapoalim, set up a situation room. So like they created like a war room that had been operating around the clock to help firms transfer their money from SVB before it was seized to accounts in Israel. Over the past few days, teams at Leumi Tech, the high-tech banking arm of Bank Leumi, have been able to help their Israeli clients transfer about $1 billion to Israel, the bank said. Well, isn't that nice? Israel's Haaretz newspaper reports that, quote, a good many Israeli companies have been able to get their money out in time, but that it was clearly not the case for everyone, and that companies whose deposits are now locked will seek to conceal this. Concerned, any rumors might drive away customers, suppliers, and employees. The FDIC has announced an emergency bailout program. Yeah, this is crazy, and that bailout, of course, will be paid for by taxpayers because it will be what's gonna happen is the FDIC had to drain their reserves in order to bail out these banks, and now they're gonna have to shore up more funds, and the banks that pay into the FDIC, they have to pay for that insurance, so the banks are gonna pass that cost on to their clients. So basically, we, the American taxpayers, are paying for this as usual. Okay, so it's unclear whether U.S. money will go to Israeli companies. Oh, wow. Israel already receives over $10 million per day from American taxpayers. Isn't that amazing? The Washington Post reports while the fund going to the depositors is paid into by U.S. banks, it is ultimately backstopped by the Treasury and therefore U.S. taxpayers. Exactly. How nice of Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to look the other way while these funds were transferred out. And it's not just that. So here's a Silicon Valley Bank did a delegation to Israel in 2017. I thought that was interesting. And as we saw, there were about 500 startups that were utilizing the bank's services. This video is very cringy. It's like a corporate video. You guys know how it is. Okay, we'll come back to this in a second, but I just wanted to bring this up here. So if you are watching the video now, you can screenshot this. It has the archive link for the article that we just mentioned, because this shows you exactly how corrupt the system is, that they sat there and let these people transfer money out and save themselves while here in America, we weren't allowed to do that. And if other people were trying to do that, they would have gotten that money seized, by the feds, I'm sure. But this is what they do. They reward their friends. They let their friends know, hey guys, this is happening. And we know that they knew because Peter Thiel, he was the one, Peter Thiel runs Palantir. He was part of the original PayPal mafia. He was a board member of Facebook. He's one of these Silicon Valley guys. He is part of Founders Fund, which is venture capital. He funds a lot of startups, blah, blah, blah. Peter Thiel was advising people to pull their money, and he knew to do that because the bank was starting to sell off their assets to raise up money because they had invested all of their money in stupid things like, that risky investments, things that they shouldn't have done. So people knew that this was happening. There was the CEO, he sold off stocks prior to this. So there was insider trading. It's just crazy how this happens. And none of those people are going to be held accountable. And we know that. None of them are going to go to jail. Like, do you really think the CEO of Silicon Valley Bank is going to face any kind of legal action for insider trading? I don't think so. Okay, so here's another interesting aspect of this that people are not talking about, and that is Silicon Valley's connection to the intelligence community. The intelligence community, the CIA, all these different intelligence agencies, DHS, FBI, whatever. They're all into Silicon Valley. In-Q-Tel is the CIA's venture capital firm. So just check this out, though. Think about all these startups, right, that were using Silicon Valley Bank for banking. these are all the different startups that In-Q-Tel is invested in. Sure, some of these, if you go through the entire thing, you're definitely going to see stuff that was affected by Silicon Valley Bank or that used Silicon Valley Bank for their banking. So you've got space, biotech, AI-enabled applications, sensor, space, computer and microelectronics, communications, AI-enabled apps, communications and space, infrastructure, biotech, computing and microelectronics, space, biotech, AI, digital intelligence, AI enabling platforms. These are all the different things that they are invested in. So this is the CIA's venture capital. Look at all these different companies. And here's another really crazy thing. All autonomy and robotics, materials manufacturing. Do we really need the CIA like involved in autonomy and robotics and the infrastructure and sensors and all this other stuff? I don't think that's really a good idea. So anyways, you get the idea though, you get the point. You can see all these different companies here that the intelligence community was funding through their venture capital firm. In-Q-Tel, Silicon Valley itself was probably created for that purpose of kind of privatizing some of the functions of the intelligence community, because they can bypass the Constitution, they can bypass the laws, FOIA, you can't FOIA a private company, which is really great for them, so they can just use a private company for their surveillance or whatever it is that they're doing that they're not supposed to be doing, Okay, so you get the idea of the different kinds of companies that they're involved in funding. Then we had this article from 2017, China and the CIA are competing to fund Silicon Valley's AI startups. Why is China funding Silicon Valley's AI startups? It's a good question, but remember, we covered earlier in the video the joint venture with Silicon Valley Bank and a Chinese state-owned bank, First Sino-American Bank, I believe it was called. Yeah, so there you go. There you have it. I thought that was very interesting. A trio of new investments in Silicon Valley machine learning startups shows the U.S. intelligence community is deeply interested in AI, but China is investing even more in these kinds of U.S. companies that has experts and intelligence officials worried. Isn't that interesting? Xi Jinping was, recently assuring everybody that, China's economy is sound, it is fine. All right, so I'll include the link to that in the video description, and just to show you, of course, that the Silicon Valley is like an extension of the intelligence community. DHS has, they're participating in Silicon Valley's innovation program. All right, so let's go. Let's go back to this article. This to me is stunning, and we all know nothing's going to be done about that. I like this. We need to get this meme trending. Wanted Yellen the felon. We need to start calling her Yellen the felon. Hands up, this is a bailout. I steal from the poor and give to the rich. It's like a reverse Robin Hood. How cute and how nice. Remember, Joe Biden says this is fine. He will let his friends know in advance about stuff like this. He'll give them time to protect themselves, but you have to be the wagey. You've got to sling fries at McDonald's and be happy about it. You've got to live in the pod and eat the bugs and all of that. Yeah, so check this out too. I thought this was interesting. In-Q-Tel, CIA's venture capital firm, hearts startups. Do you have a product or technology that can contribute to national security? We want to hear from you. In-Q-Tel scouts the global market for commercially focused technologies with the potential to contribute to national security. The product or tech should be near ready or ready. If you're interested in having In-Q-Tel consider your startup, click here. And this is the average American citizen, by the way, that lives paycheck to paycheck, that is, overwhelmed by credit card debt, student loan debt, facing horrific prospects here with hyperinflation, and it's stunning. So that we don't get a bailout, no health care for you. It's just crazy. But if you're our friends, haha, money printer, go burr, you get the warning. You're allowed to pull your money out while everybody else doesn't have that opportunity, and the cost gets, they get bailed out, and that cost gets put on the American consumer. It's amazing how this stuff happens and how these people are able to get away with this. Remember that not one banker was arrested because of the 2008 to 2010 global financial crisis. Like, none of them got arrested for that. So of course they're going to continue to do this stuff because they know they'll get away with it. So all these people knew this is how it is. There's a lot of very convenient things here. Another aspect to this is consolidation of wealth and power. All of these bailouts, they always end up being a transfer of wealth from the poor to the already extremely wealthy. The wealth gap continues to widen in our country, which is really scary. Anyways, yeah, so it's always a wealth transfer. And, of course, BB knew, they all knew, and they're allowed to engage in insider trading. That's fine. They're allowed to help their friends. And you have to pay for everything. That has to be transferred to you. Anyways, all right, that's my video for today. And I might have another video coming out soon. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, I appreciate it. Make sure you hit the bell because I feel like they're always hiding my stuff. And if you like the video, if you enjoyed it, please like it, comment, share. All of that stuff helps. Also, a special thank you to the monthly supporters of the channel, people who have signed up for monthly memberships. I really appreciate that because that means I can talk about things. Most of my videos are automatically demonetized. It means I can talk about the things I want to talk about, and it allows me to kind of do the things I want to do. So I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. I hope you guys have a good day. Hooray!